It was never her choice. Annika sat silently on the worn-out couch, hands trembling, as her parents shouted over her head, making the decision that would forever change her life. She was only 22, full of dreams, full of plans, but none of it mattered now. All because they said he was a good man, honest, hard-working, even if he was poor and blind. "Blind people have hearts too, Annika," her father bellowed. "He'll treat you better than any of those rich boys you keep dreaming about." Annika felt the weight pressing down on her chest. Her mother's eyes were cold and sharp, offering no mercy, no understanding. It didn't matter that Annika had begged, cried, even threatened to leave. They had made the arrangement. It was done. Her future was sold to a man she had never met, a man who couldn't even see her. The wedding was a blur. She wore a simple red dress, nothing like the beautiful white gown she used to imagine. The house was small, crowded, filled with the heavy scent of cheap flowers. Neighbors came more out of pity than joy. The only person who seemed genuinely happy was Raj, the groom, the poor blind man she was now tied to forever. Raj's face lit up when he heard her voice whisper, "I do." His smile was genuine, warm even, but to Annika it felt like a curse. She barely looked at him. She barely touched him. She spent the entire ceremony planning how she would escape. That first night in his tiny one-bedroom house, Annika sat on the edge of a creaky bed, staring at the cracked walls. Raj sat across the room, hands folded neatly in his lap like he knew not to come too close. "I know you didn't want this," he said quietly, his voice careful, like he was stepping through broken glass. "I'm sorry you had no choice." His words made her chest tighten. She hadn't expected him to be kind, but kindness didn't change anything. She was trapped, stuck with a man who couldn't even look her in the eyes. Days turned into weeks. Raj would leave early every morning to sell handmade baskets at the market. His fingers were skilled. He could weave faster than anyone else in the village, yet the money he earned was barely enough for 2 meals a day. Annika hated every second of it. She hated cooking in a smoky kitchen. She hated washing clothes by hand. She hated living poor. And most of all, she hated pretending. At night, Raj would try to talk to her, ask her about her day, tell her funny little stories from the market. But Annika would answer with short, cold replies. She didn't want to make friends with him. She didn't want to feel sorry for him. She wanted to leave. One night, she had enough. As Raj slept, she packed a small bag. She grabbed the little savings Raj had kept in an old cookie tin, stuffed it into her purse, and quietly opened the front door. Her heart raced. This was it. She would leave this miserable life behind. But just as she stepped outside, she heard a soft voice behind her. "Annika, where are you going?" She froze. She hadn't realized he was awake. She hadn't realized he could hear so well. She turned slowly to see him standing there in his thin cotton pajamas, looking straight at her, or at least in her direction, even though his eyes were blank. I can't do this, Raj," she stammered. I'm not cut out for this kind of life." He nodded slowly, like he already knew this would happen. His voice cracked when he spoke next. "Take the money," he said. "Take whatever you need. Just don't hate me for loving you." Annika's throat closed up. She didn't know what to say. For a second, the anger and frustration inside her wavered, but then she tightened her grip on the bag and ran. She didn't look back. The bus rumbled along the dusty road as Annika clutched her small bag to her chest, trying not to cry. She told herself she was free now, free from a life of struggle, free from being tied to a man she never loved. Yet deep inside, something heavy gnawed at her. Raj's last words echoed in her ears. "Don't hate me for loving you." The city lights greeted her like old friends. Annika had always dreamed of living here, where dreams were made, where people lived in glossy apartments, wore designer clothes and drank coffee in fancy cafes. She checked into a cheap hostel that night, using the stolen money to pay for a small dingy room. The next morning she stepped into the streets full of hope. She thought it would be easy, find a job, make some money, live a better life. But reality hit harder than she ever expected. Nobody wanted to hire a girl with no experience, no college degree, no skills except for cooking and cleaning. Days turned into weeks. The little money she had ran out faster than she could have imagined. The city that once seemed magical now felt like a monster swallowing her whole. Annika started sleeping in parks. Sometimes she would sneak into the women's washroom at a gas station to clean herself up. She hated it. She hated herself. She thought about Raj sometimes, about the tiny house she once cursed. At least there she had food, she had a roof, she had someone who cared. One rainy night, desperate and starving, Annika found herself knocking on the back door of a restaurant. The manager, a greasy-looking man named Vikram, looked her up and down and smirked. "You want a job?" he asked. "You'll have to work hard, maybe do other things too." The way he said it made her stomach twist, but hunger made people do shameful things. She nodded. Vikram gave her a job washing dishes, for scraps of food and a place to sleep in a storeroom that smelled like rotten vegetables. He also made it clear he expected more from her eventually, things she wasn't ready to give. Every night Annika cried herself to sleep, curled up on a thin mattress. She remembered Raj's voice, his kindness, the way he always kept a respectful distance even though he was her husband. She remembered how he never once raised his voice or demanded anything from her. The shame burned deeper every day. Weeks later, while scrubbing greasy plates, Annika overheard two waiters talking. "Hey, did you hear about that blind guy from the village? Raj something?" "What about him?" "They said he went crazy after his wife ran away. Lost everything. He got hit by a car trying to find her in the city. He's in the hospital. Don't think he'll survive." Annika's hands stopped moving. The world spun around her. Her Raj in the city looking for her, hurt, alone. She dropped the plate she was holding. It shattered loudly on the floor. Vikram stormed over, cursing and threatening to fire her. But Annika didn't care. She ripped off her dirty apron and ran out into the street without even grabbing her shoes. The hospital was a labyrinth of white walls and disinfectant smells. After begging a nurse for information, Annika found herself standing outside a small cold room. She peered inside. Raj lay on the bed, 1,000 tubes attached to him. His face was bruised, his leg was in a cast. His eyes, those eyes that had never seen her, were open, staring blankly at the ceiling. Tears flooded Annika's eyes. Guilt hit her like a slap across the face. She had left him, betrayed him, and still he had come looking for her. She stepped inside, heart pounding. She didn't know what she would say. She wasn't sure he would even want to hear her voice after everything she'd done. "Raj," she whispered. His head turned slightly toward her. A weak, broken smile flickered across his lips. "Annika," he breathed. "I found you." She broke down in heavy sobs, falling to her knees beside his bed, clutching his hand. The hand that once wove beautiful baskets, the hand she had so easily abandoned. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "I'm so sorry." Raj squeezed her hand, weakly. "It's okay, but you're here now." Annika knew then she had ruined everything. And yet somehow Raj still loved her. But fate wasn't finished with her yet. She didn't know that the worst was still coming, that this hospital visit would uncover a secret so devastating it would tear apart everything she thought she knew, not just about Raj, but about herself. The hospital room buzzed softly with the sound of machines. Annika sat by Raj's side for hours, holding his hand, sometimes crying, sometimes just staring at him, wondering how she had let things get so bad. When a nurse came in to check Raj's vitals, Annika stood up, wiping her face quickly. "Will he be okay?" she asked, voice shaking. The nurse gave her a strange look, almost pitying. "We're doing everything we can, but he has more problems than just broken bones." "What do you mean?" Annika asked, her heart sinking. The nurse hesitated before speaking. "Raj's accident caused internal injuries. His kidneys are failing. If he doesn't get proper treatment soon, he won't survive." Annika's blood ran cold. Kidneys failing, treatment, money. She could barely afford a meal for herself these days. Where was she supposed to find the money to save him? "Is there anything I can do?" she whispered. The nurse looked at her carefully. "He needs a transplant. Science or dialysis immediately, but it's expensive and—" She sighed. "His file says he has no family, only a wife." Annika felt like the walls were closing in on her. Wife. That word hit harder than a slap. "I'll find the money," she said suddenly before she even knew what she was saying. "I'll save him, I swear." But promises were easy. Reality was brutal. For the next few days, Annika tried everything. She begged. For work at restaurants, cleaned floors, washed clothes, anything to earn a few rupees. But it wasn't enough, not even close. One evening, sitting on the steps outside the hospital, head buried in her knees, she heard a voice. "Hard times, huh?" She looked up to see Vikram, the sleazy restaurant manager, grinning down at her. He had followed her. Or maybe fate had thrown him back into her path like a bad joke. "I heard about your blind husband," he said, lighting a cigarette. Sad story, real touching. Annika said nothing. "You know," Vikram continued, blowing out a cloud of smoke, "I could help you real easy." She knew what he meant. She wasn't stupid. He crouched down beside her, voice dropping to a whisper. "One night. That's all it takes. I'll pay you enough for the treatment." Annika wanted to vomit. Every part of her screamed no. But then she thought of Raj, of him lying there, dying because of her, because she had left him, because she had broken him. Tears streamed down her face. "One night," she whispered back. The hours that followed were the darkest of Annika's life. She left her body behind, floating above herself, as Vikram took what he wanted. She felt dirty, broken, humiliated. But she kept telling herself it was for Raj, for redemption. When it was over, Vikram tossed a bundle of cash at her like she was trash. She picked it up with shaking hands and walked away without looking back. The next morning she paid the hospital. She signed every paper they shoved at her. She sat beside Raj through every painful treatment, every tear, every scream. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, Raj's body began to heal. The doctor said he would live, thanks to her. But something inside Annika had died. Even though Raj got better, she found it harder and harder to look him in the eyes, or even speak to him. Guilt gnawed at her soul like a rat in the dark. Raj noticed it too. "You seem different," he said one evening as they sat together, the sound of the hospital TV buzzing in the background. "I'm fine," she lied, forcing a smile he couldn't even see. He reached out blindly, his fingers brushing hers. "You saved my life, Annika. I don't know how to thank you." She swallowed hard, forcing down the bitter taste in her throat. "You don't have to thank me," she said. "You don't know what it cost me." She wanted to scream. But Raj didn't know. He would never know, because Annika swore she would carry that shame to her grave, or so she thought. Because secrets have a nasty habit of crawling into the light, and soon a secret even darker than her own would come crashing down around her. And when it did, Annika would finally learn that Raj wasn't the man she thought he was. The doctors finally discharged Raj 2 weeks later. He could walk again, though slowly and carefully. His blindness, of course, remained. Annika helped him as best she could, guiding him, cooking for him, sitting quietly with him at night. But inside, she was broken in ways he couldn't see. They moved into a tiny rented room near the hospital, paid for with what little money they had left. Annika got a job cleaning offices during the day, while Raj stayed home, weaving small baskets to sell at the local market. Life was hard, but it was a life, a real one. Still, Annika couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It started with small things, like how Raj sometimes knew exactly where something was, without her describing it, or how he would catch things falling off a table before they hit the ground. At first, Annika thought maybe he just had sharp instincts, maybe living blind made him sensitive. But then came the night that changed everything. They were sitting together, Raj weaving a basket by feel, Annika folding clothes. She stood up to grab a blanket from the top shelf. Stretching on her tiptoes, she pulled too hard, and a heavy vase tumbled off the shelf. Before she could even react, Raj lunged forward, eyes wide open, staring directly at the falling vase, and caught it. Annika froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs. For a long second, neither of them moved. Raj realized it too. His face turned pale. He dropped the vase with a loud crash, pretending to stumble. I heard it, he said quickly, scrambling for an excuse. I heard it falling. But Annika wasn't stupid. She had seen it, clear as day. His eyes weren't dead. They were alive. They saw. You're not blind, she whispered, stepping away from him. Raj didn't answer. He just sat there, breathing heavily. Say it, she shouted, voice cracking. You're not blind. Raj dropped his head into his hands. His body trembled. I was, he said hoarsely. I was blind. Years ago. But after an operation I could see again. I just never told anyone. Annika's knees buckled and she sank onto the bed. Her mind spun in 1,000 directions. Why? She asked, barely able to get the word out. Raj sat silently for a long time before answering. My parents. They were poor. They spent everything they had to get me that surgery. After they died, the village pitied me, helped me, gave me jobs, charity. He laughed bitterly. Being blind made me safe. Nobody expected anything from me. They didn't envy me. They didn't hurt me. Annika stared at him, horrified. So you faked it, she said. You lied. All these years, he nodded. And you tricked me too, she whispered. He flinched like she had slapped him. I never wanted to marry anyone, Raj said. Desperately. When your parents arranged it, I thought, maybe it was fate, maybe. Someone would love me for who I was, not for what I had. Annika felt like the floor was falling away under her feet. Love you? She said bitterly. You stole my life. I married you out of pity, out of duty, not love. Raj's face crumpled. I never meant to hurt you, I swear. But it didn't matter anymore. Everything was ruined. Everything was a lie. Annika stood up, shaking. I betrayed myself to save you, she said, voice hollow. I sold myself to a monster, and all along you were lying too. Tears blurred her vision. She grabbed her bag, the same small battered bag she had packed the night she ran away, and stormed out of the room. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't care. All she knew was that she had lost everything, her dignity, her trust, her heart, for a man who didn't even deserve it. And fate, cruel as ever, wasn't finished with her yet, because someone had been watching them, someone who knew Raj's secret, and now they were about to use it to destroy them both. Annika wandered the streets for hours, feeling like a ghost. The city roared around her, cars honking, people shouting, neon signs flashing. But inside she was completely numb. How could Raj lie like that? How could he pretend to be helpless, fool the world, and trap her into a life she never chose? She sat on a cold stone bench in a deserted park, pulling her thin jacket tighter around her. For the first time in her life she felt truly alone. No family, no friends, no home. Her mind spun with anger and sadness, but somewhere deeper, under all the hate, was something worse. Fear. Because deep down, she still cared about Raj, even after everything, and that scared her more than anything else. The next morning, Annika returned to the shabby room they shared. She wasn't ready to forgive him, not even close, but she needed answers. She needed to know the whole truth, even if it tore her apart. But when she pushed open the door, the room was empty. No Raj, no baskets, nothing, just a piece of paper lying on the floor. She picked it up with trembling hands. Forgive me. That's all it said. Annika's heart pounded. Where had he gone? Was he running away again like he always did? Before she could think further, a voice spoke from the shadows. You're looking for your husband? She spun around. A man leaned against the wall, smoking a cigarette. His clothes were expensive, too expensive for a place like this. His smile was cold, sharp like a knife. Who are you? She demanded. The man flicked his cigarette into the dirt. Name's Rohan, he said, friend of Raj's, or used to be. Annika narrowed her eyes. What do you want? Rohan laughed. You mean, what do I know? He stepped closer. voice dropping. I know Raj's secret. I know he can see. I know he's been fooling the whole damn village for years, and now, he grinned wider, I know exactly how much that secret is worth. Annika's stomach twisted. You're blackmailing him. Rohan shrugged. Call it business. He pulled out his phone and showed her a video, a clear recording of Raj catching the falling vase. Proof. Undeniable. I sent this to Raj yesterday, Rohan said. Told him if he doesn't pay me 2 lakh rupees in 1 week, I'll show everyone. The villagers, the police. Everyone? Annika's head spun. 2 lakh rupees, it was impossible. They didn't have 2,000, let alone 2 lakh. Where is he? She whispered. Rohan smiled darkly. Out trying to find the money, probably selling whatever little pride. He has left. Annika felt sick. And if he doesn't? She asked. Rohan's smile vanished. His eyes hardened. Then he'll wish he stayed blind. He walked away, leaving Annika standing there, shaking with rage and fear. For a long time she just stood there, clutching the piece of paper Raj had left behind. Forgive me. Forgiveness, she didn't even know where to start. Raj had lied, she had sinned. Now they were both trapped, puppets dancing to the cruel rhythm of fate, and time was running out. Only one thing was clear to Annika now. If they didn't fight back, they were both finished. And for the first time in a long time, she felt a spark ignite deep inside her. She wasn't going to be a victim anymore, not for Raj, not for Rohan, not for anyone. It was time for a blind man and a broken woman to fight the devil himself, together, or not at all. Annika didn't waste any more time. If Raj thought he could fix this alone, he was wrong. If Rohan thought he could crush them, he was even more wrong. She stormed out of the building, her heart pounding, her mind racing. She knew where Raj would go. Only one place in the city cared about the poor and desperate, the old market. Square, where broken men traded sweat for a few coins. She found him there under the blazing sun, weaving baskets as fast as his fingers could move. His face was pale, drawn, desperate. She watched him for a moment from a distance, her heart breaking all over again. This wasn't the man who had lied to her. This was the man who would die trying to protect her. She walked up slowly. Raj, she said softly. He froze. His hands stilled. His head lifted, not with that blind, searching confusion he used to. Fake, but with guilt, raw and real. You shouldn't be here, he whispered. She knelt beside him, ignoring the stares of the other workers. You're an idiot, she said, smiling through her tears. He gave a broken laugh. I know. They sat there in silence for a moment, baskets half finished between them. Finally Annika spoke. I met Rohan. Raj's whole body stiffened. I know about the blackmail, she continued. I know everything. Raj looked crushed. I was trying to protect you, he said miserably. You think I need protecting? She snapped. You think after everything I've been through, I'm still some fragile little doll? He opened his mouth to argue, but she cut him off. We're in this mess together. We get out of it together. Slowly, Raj nodded. But how? He asked. We have nothing. Annika smiled grimly. That's where he made a mistake, she said. He thinks we're weak. He thinks we'll beg, cry, pay him off. Raj frowned. And we're not? Annika's eyes gleamed with a fire he hadn't seen before. No, she said. We're going to destroy him. That night, Annika made a plan. She knew Rohan's type. Flashy, greedy, careless. He wouldn't just sit quietly and wait for his blackmail money. No. He would brag. He would drink. He would show off his power before he even had it. And she was right. The next evening, she spotted him at a sleazy bar on the edge of the city, already half drunk, laughing loudly with a group of thugs. Annika didn't flinch. She walked straight in, head high, heart hammering. Rohan's eyes lit up when he saw her. Changed your mind, sweetheart, he slurred. Annika forced a sweet smile. I came to make a deal, she said. He waved her over arrogantly, like a king summoning a servant. She sat down across from him, close enough to smell the alcohol on his breath. I can't get 2 lakh, she said softly. But I have something better. Rohan leaned in, greed gleaming in his eyes. What's better than cash? Annika smiled. Slowly. Proof that Raj isn't just a liar, she whispered. Proof he's a criminal too. Rohan laughed. Go on. Annika's hands shook under the table, but she kept her voice calm. He's been scamming charities for years, faking blindness to get free food, free shelter, money. If the police find out, he'll go to jail for fraud. Rohan's grin widened. Beautiful, he said. Bring me proof. Signed papers, photos. Then maybe. I'll let you both live. He stood up, throwing money on the table, swaggering out of the bar. Annika sat frozen for a second, heart racing. She had done it. Hook, line sinker. Now all she had to do was finish the trap, because while Rohan thought he was getting proof, what he was really getting was a one-way ticket straight to hell. Annika wasted no time. The next morning, she and Raj sat together in their tiny room, a single lamp flickering weakly in the corner. They looked at each other across the scarred table, broken souls glued together by pain, betrayal, and something stronger than either of them had ever expected: survival. I don't like lying again, Raj said, his voice low. Annika smiled bitterly. Sometimes you have to lie to fight a bigger liar. She pulled out a small notebook she had stolen from the hospital's lost and found, old, worn and perfect for what they needed. Together, they filled the pages with fake donation lists, forged signatures, and fake receipts, all carefully designed to look real. They even took photos of Raj standing outside a charity home, holding a white cane, looking pitiful and blind. Annika's hands trembled sometimes while writing, but she pushed through. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about justice, about taking back the dignity they both had lost. When everything was ready, Annika sent a message to Rohan. Meet me tomorrow noon, same bar, bring cash. The next day the sun beat down hard on the cracked pavement as Annika walked to the bar, the fake evidence tucked under her arm. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. She spotted Rohan at a table inside, sunglasses on, expensive watch flashing in the light. He looked cocky, dangerous, like he already owned her life. You got it? He asked, not even bothering with hello. Annika slid the notebook across the table. Rohan snatched it up greedily, flipping through the pages. His grin stretched wider with every passing second. This is gold, he breathed. They'll lock him up and throw away the key. He tossed a thick envelope onto the table. Half now, half when you disappear. Annika stared at the envelope, bile rising in her throat, like she was some cheap thing to be bought and thrown away, but she smiled sweetly. Deal. She stood up slowly, brushing off her skirt. You know what's funny, Rohan? She said lightly. He looked up, frowning. You think you're the only one who knows how to play dirty. Before he could react, the door of the bar burst open. 2 police officers stormed in, guns drawn, shouting orders. Rohan jumped to his feet, stunned. What the? Before he could run, they tackled him to the ground, slapping handcuffs on his wrists. You're under arrest, one officer barked. Blackmail, extortion, conspiracy. Annika watched, heart pounding in satisfaction, as Rohan cursed and struggled. You set me up, he screamed, glaring at her. You little witch, you set me up. Annika just smiled coldly. You wanted proof, she said softly. Now the police have plenty. Earlier that morning, she had gone to the authorities with everything. The blackmail texts, the threats, the video of him trying to bribe her. She even wore a wire today, recording every word he said inside the bar. They had been waiting outside the whole time, ready to pounce. Rohan was finished. As the police dragged him out, kicking and cursing, Annika finally allowed herself a long, shaky breath. It was over, or at least almost over. She still had one last thing to do. She walked back to the tiny room she shared with Raj, the city buzzing around her, a strange feeling growing in her chest. Not happiness exactly, but something close. When she opened the door, Raj was sitting there, waiting. He stood up as she entered, his face a storm of guilt, hope, fear. Is it done? He asked quietly. She nodded. He moved toward her slowly, like he was afraid she would shatter. "Annika, I know I have no right to ask for anything. Not after everything, but," his voice broke, "I love you." For a long moment she said nothing. Then she stepped closer. "I know," she whispered, "and maybe someday I can love you too." Raj's breath hitched. "But you have to earn it," she said, her voice firm. "No more lies, no more pretending, no more running." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "No more running," he promised. They stood there, two broken souls stitched together by pain, lies, and a fight neither of them ever wanted, but somehow survived. Maybe love didn't always come wrapped in roses and silk. Maybe sometimes love was ugly, battered, scarred, but it was still love, and for Annika, for Raj, for the first time in their lives, it was real. Months passed. Life wasn't suddenly perfect for Annika and Raj. Real life never worked like that. But it was theirs now, built on truth, built on something stronger than lies or pity. Raj worked harder than ever. He set up a small stall at the market, selling handmade baskets, mats, and little woven toys. People loved his work, not because they felt sorry for him, but because he was good at it. Annika found a better job too, working as a receptionist in a tiny clinic. The pay wasn't much, but it was honest, and for the first time in years she felt proud when she looked in the mirror. Their days were simple. Breakfast together in the early morning light, work all day. Late dinners in their cramped, noisy room, laughter over silly things, quiet talks about dreams they were too scared to dream before. And sometimes, not every day, but sometimes, Raj would reach out across the dinner table, find Annika's hand and hold it like it was the most precious thing in the world. At first, she used to pull away, but slowly over time, she started to hold his hand back. One evening, as the sun dipped below the crooked rooftops, painting the sky orange, and pink, Raj and Annika sat together outside their room. Raj played with a scrap of rope, weaving it absent-mindedly. "You know," he said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I used to think blindness made me strong." Annika leaned back against the wall, closing her eyes against the cool breeze. "But now?" she asked. Raj smiled sadly. "Now I know. It was love that made me strong. Real love. Not the kind that's forced or faked. The kind you fight for." Annika opened her eyes and looked at him. He looked older somehow. Scarred, but wiser, and maybe she looked the same. She took a deep breath. "I used to think love was supposed to be perfect," she said. "Movies, books, all that crap, but it's not." She reached over and gently took the piece of rope from Raj's hands, threading it through her fingers. "Love is messy," she whispered. "Ugly sometimes, painful, it breaks you. But if you're lucky, it also rebuilds you into something better." Raj didn't say anything. He just smiled, not with pity, not with expectation, but with a kind of quiet hope that broke Annika's heart in the best way. She smiled too, a real one, not forced, not bitter. It wasn't about grand declarations anymore. It wasn't about apologies or promises. It was about sitting side by side in the wreckage of everything they had survived and choosing, over and over, to stay. Choosing to believe in each other. Choosing to believe that even broken things could still be beautiful. A soft breeze ruffled Annika's hair. She looked out over the city lights, so far from the girl who had once run away in the middle of the night, chasing a dream she didn't even understand. She turned back to Raj. "I think," she said softly, "I'm ready." His head tilted slightly, confusion crossing his face. "Ready?" he echoed. She smiled wider, squeezing his hand. "Ready to try, to love you back." Raj's breath caught. For a long moment they just sat there, bathed in the fading gold of the sunset, two lost souls finally found. And for the first time, maybe in their whole lives, they weren't afraid anymore, because this time it wasn't about running away. It was about fighting for something worth staying for, together, always.